Hello and welcome. In this first of a three-part series, we'll be talking about childhood trauma adaptations, superpowers, and kryptonite. This is such an important topic, and I'm so excited to share this content with you. But before we get started, let me share a little more about who I am and why I'm sharing this with you today. I'm Annie Wright. I'm a licensed psychotherapist and a trauma clinician with a specialty in childhood trauma recovery. I'm also the founder of a boutique trauma-informed therapy center, and in addition to this, I'm also an online course creator and a published mental health writer, with my pieces and opinions appearing in Forbes, Business Insider, NBC, and the Huffington Post, among others. Every bit of my work in this world, whether this is through my clinical work, through my online courses, or through content like this that I put out into the world, is designed to support those who come from childhood trauma backgrounds to have the best adulthood possible despite adverse early beginnings. If who I am and what I share resonates with you, please be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel and sign up for my newsletter in the show notes below. And now, as part of helping you have the best adulthood possible, despite how you may have started out in life, we are going to explore today's topic: childhood trauma adaptations, superpowers, and kryptonite, part 1. In this episode, we'll cover the following: why childhood trauma adaptations are an attempt to cope. What are common childhood trauma, cognitive and behavioral adaptations, and more. But before we dive into today's topic, I just want to say that I'm so glad to connect with you, and I truly hope that what I share here can be of support to you. And very importantly, please remember, no matter where you're starting from, change is possible. With that in mind, let's begin this journey together by exploring today's topic: childhood trauma adaptations, superpowers, and kryptonite, part 1. During this three-part series, we're going to explore exactly what common childhood trauma adaptations are, why and how they can be like superpowers, not only when we're children, but also when we're adults, why and how these adaptations can also be like proverbial kryptonite, how to discern the difference, and what to do if we're aware that our own childhood trauma adaptations have become a proverbial form of kryptonite in our adult lives. To start, let's discuss why childhood trauma adaptations are an attempt to cope. Childhood trauma, as I've written about extensively, has the potential to negatively shape a child's development. I'll place links to these essays I've previously written about childhood trauma in the show notes. Experiences of trauma, such as abuse or neglect, disrupt normal developmental trajectories, forcing children to develop coping mechanisms that help them cope with painful experiences. These attempts are essentially survival strategies. And these attempts fall into two buckets: cognitive and behavioral adaptations, meaning the thoughts and behaviors that form as survival attempts. Cognitive adaptations involve changes in perception, belief systems, and thought processes that aim to protect the child from emotional pain or to rationalize or make sense of their experiences. Behavioral adaptations are actions or reactions the child develops to avoid harm, manage stress, or navigate complex social environments at home, at school, at church, etc. Let's explore more about what common childhood trauma, cognitive, and behavioral adaptations are, so you can perhaps begin to see yourself and your own personal history more clearly. Common childhood trauma, cognitive, and behavioral adaptations include: 1. Hypervigilance, characterized by an always-on alertness to danger, be it real or perceived. This adaptation stems from the body's fight or flight response, which becomes heightened in those of us who've experienced trauma. The cognitive belief that danger is omnipresent prompts behaviors such as constantly scanning for threats, leading to chronic stress and anxiety. A cognitive example: I need to be aware of everything around me at all times. Any small sound could mean danger. A behavioral example: constantly scanning rooms for exits or threats, jumping at slight noises or movements. This heightened state of alertness is a direct response to fearing unseen dangers. Another adaptation, number 2, people-pleasing. Rooted in attachment theory, which suggests that early relationships with caregivers shape an individual's belief about self and others, in environments characterized by abuse or neglect, children might learn to prioritize others' needs over their own, believing their safety and worth are contingent upon the approval of others. A cognitive example of this: if I make sure everyone else is happy and their needs are met, then I won't be hurt or criticized. A behavioral example: always agreeing to requests, even at one's own expense, changing opinions or behaviors based on who you're with. This stems from the belief that pleasing others can protect them from harm. Another example, number 3, disassociation, a coping mechanism that allows individuals to mentally escape from distress. This adaptation, while providing temporary relief from pain, can complicate the formation of a coherent narrative about one's experiences, which is essential for healing and integration. A cognitive example of this: when things get too intense, it's like I can leave my body and go somewhere else where it's safe. A behavioral example: staring off into space or zoning out during stressful situations, having periods where one can't recall certain events or actions. Another example, number 4, emotional numbing. Emotional numbing shields from trauma by dulling feelings, leading to difficulties in experiencing and expressing a range of emotions and forming close relationships. It's a significant symptom of PTSD, impacting how individuals connect with their emotions and the world. A cognitive example of this: if I don't feel anything, then I can't be hurt anymore. A behavioral example: showing little to no emotional reaction to situations that typically evoke strong responses, avoiding emotionally charged topics or events. Another example, number 5, perfectionism. Perfectionism may develop from trauma, driven by the belief that worth depends on flawless achievements. This can lead to excessive stress and hinder risk-taking and growth, functioning as a way to cope with unpredictability. A cognitive example: I have to be perfect in everything I do or else I'll be judged or rejected. A behavioral example: spending excessive amounts of time on tasks to ensure that they're done without any mistakes, often at the expense of personal well-being. Number 6, control-seeking behaviors. Control-seeking behaviors in children stem from efforts to manage the uncertainty and turmoil of traumatic experiences. These behaviors aim to create a sense of stability and safety, countering feelings of powerlessness. Trauma survivors may adopt these strategies to lessen feelings of helplessness and regain a sense of control over their lives. A cognitive example: if I can control everything around me, then nothing bad can happen unexpectedly. A behavioral example: creating strict routines or rules for oneself and others at home and at work, becoming upset if anything disrupts these routines. Another example, number 7, impulsivity. Impulsivity arises as an immediate response to the intense stress and emotional turmoil from unresolved trauma, often due to a chronically activated stress response system. Acting impulsively can momentarily distract from trauma related to stress, but it may also result in harmful consequences, impacting healthier stress management methods. A cognitive example: I can't handle this pressure, I just need to do something now to feel relief. A behavioral example: engaging in risky behaviors without considering the consequences, such as binge eating and purging, substance abuse, or reckless sexual behaviors. Another coping mechanism, Number 8, avoidance. A strategy to evade triggers that recall traumatic memories, reducing immediate anxiety and distress. Though it offers temporary relief, avoidance can hinder the processing of traumatic experiences, potentially exacerbating suffering and contributing to the development of PTSD. A cognitive example? If I stay away from anything that reminds me of what happened, then I won't have to deal with the pain. A behavioral example: actively avoiding certain locations, social situations, or people that are connected to traumatic events, even if this limits one's life experiences. Look, again, all of these adaptations serve as coping mechanisms and survival strategies, enabling children to manage their distress and maintain some sense of control over their lives. How brilliant that children can adapt in these ways to cope and get through painful early circumstances, truly. But it's important to recognize that these adaptations can be both positive and negative, especially if they're still running on autopilot in adulthood, which we'll explore more in part 2 of our 3-part series on childhood trauma adaptations. So now I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Which of these common childhood trauma adaptations do you see yourself in? What's an example of how this plays out for you now as an adult? If you feel so inclined, please leave a message below so that others can benefit from your share and wisdom. You never know who on the other side of the world you might be helping when you share your story. Finally, if you're still not sure if this content applies to you, if you're still not sure if you come from a childhood trauma history, or if cognitive or behavioral adaptations from childhood trauma impact you, I would invite you to take my signature quiz. Do I come from a childhood trauma background? It's a 5-minute, 25-question quiz I created that can be incredibly illuminating and will point you in the direction of a wide variety of resources that can be of further help to you. Plus, when you take the quiz, you'll be added to my mailing list, where you'll receive twice-a-month letters from me sharing original high-quality essays with accompanying YouTube videos and audios you can stream, all of it devoted to the topic of childhood trauma recovery, and where I share more about me as a person, my life, and how I'm journeying through my own childhood trauma recovery and general adulthood. My newsletters are the only place where I share intimate glimpses into my life, including photos, the resources that are supporting me, the things I've discovered that delight me, words that are uplifting me, the practices that nourish me, and more. So please be sure to sign up for my mailing list whether or not you want to take the quiz. I'll link to both of these things in the show notes below. Finally, thank you so much for listening to me today. I truly hope that even a small part of what I shared today felt helpful to you. If you found value in this information and would like to stay connected with my latest content, please consider giving the episode a like. Also, subscribing to my channel and turning on the notification bell ensures you're always up to date with my newest episodes. I appreciate your support and look forward to continuing this journey with you. So thank you, and until next time, please take such good care of yourself. You're so worth it.